everyone. Welcome to another episode of Pleasure Pulse. I'm your host, Roma Richardson, and you're joining me on ZIZ on Radio 96.1 FM, on YouTube, perhaps on Facebook, on social media, and you can access us via our website, zizonline.com, if you like to consume your content in that way. Tonight I have a packed house for a packed discussion. But as usual, I like to leave a little break so everybody can get themselves situated. Let everybody know that Pleasure Pulse is live. So we'll take a short break, come right back, and start tonight's discussion. So stay tuned.
The moment we've all been waiting for is finally here. ZIZ Petition Superstar 2025 is down to the final four. After weeks of unforgettable performances, only 4 contenders remain in the race for the crown. Iquanja Bradley, Danicia Henry, Romisia Prentice, and Juanita Johnson. And on Thursday, they go head-to-head in the biggest night of the season, the grand finale, live from the ZIZ TV studio. Who will rise? Who will shine? And who will become the next Petition Superstar? Don't miss the final show, Thursday, November 27 at 8 p.m. on ZIZ TV, ZIZ Radio, and streaming live on ZIZ social media platforms. This is it, the talent, the passion, the showdown, ZIZ Petition Superstar 2025, the finale.
You're in tune to Pleasure Pulse. I'm your host, Roma Richardson, and I'm so happy, as I mentioned earlier, to have you here with me for another Tuesday night conversation. Today kicks off the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. So I'm joined here by my guests from different parts of the gender space, and I'll ask them to introduce themselves. Some are new, some are first timers, some are repeat timers. So I'll ask them to introduce themselves, and usually it's introduce yourself, say whatever you want about yourself. Yeah, that's the introduction. Cool. Who wants to go first?
Chanel.
Look at that.
Okay, good night, Radioland. My name is Chanel Charles. I am the acting director for the Department of Gender Affairs.
Hello, everyone. I am Miss Sarah Hendrickson, Director of Gender Affairs, Nevis.
Good night, everyone, and thank you for having me. My name is Tronaya Douglas, and I am a gender officer at Department of Gender Affairs, St. Kitts.
Good night, everyone. My name is Tricia Griot, and I'm representing the Angelique Dance Company, as well as technically working in partnership with Global Fund for Women and the Caribbean Feminist Climate Justice Movement. And that's why we're here to support all of the gender-based activities that's happening.
Welcome. So I was telling Tronaya, 4 people it's I feel like it's going to be an active discussion. We don't have to go in order, okay?
Sure.
So
Yeah,
whoever wants to talk whenever,
Right.
fine. You don't have to raise your hand. I might point on somebody, but let's just have an engaging discussion. I know topics like these can be had to have lots of times. You know, I do this show, Pleasure Pulse, and talking about sex itself isn't easy, even the good parts and the good sides of sex. So can imagine that talking about violence, talking about trauma, talking about these experiences with violations of consent, you know, even complicate it even
It's heavy.
more. But the conversations don't have to be had. You know, the conversations should be honest, and they should represent the reality of what a lot of people experience, right? Hence the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. So I want to start off, I know today we are talking about hush culture, and I put that in the context of rape culture more broadly, but I want to start off giving some background on the 16 days of activism for people who might not be familiar. I mean, I know the directors, especially of gender affairs in St. Kitts and Nevis, could talk about the long history that we've had, matching, this and this. So give people some background on this moment that we're in. Ms. Henderson is looking at me, so I'm like, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So let's not go too deep into history. Let's make it simple.
Herstory.
So, there have been many waves of feminism. What has been happening is you find a lot of women groups, they have banded together to ensure that women's rights are seen and women are respected, because they have gone through so many years of abuse, whether it's marital rape, whether it's not being paid, whether issues with gender pay gap. But when we're looking at 16 days of activism and the elimination of violence against women, we have to zone in on what happened in the Dominican Republic with the Mirabal sisters. They were assassinated because they were trying to fight against the Trujillo regime, which basically tried to capture anyone that goes against his political life. What happened with them is, they were imprisoned for several years. They got out. There was one time where they went back to visit their husbands. They were caught while they're on their way to the visit, and they were bludgeoned to death and thrown over a cliff. Yes? So from that point on, there have been so many marches, so many conversations, so many groups formed out of that to ensure that women's rights and women are protected, especially those who would have faced violence against the female body. So then in 1999, you had that formally ratified as the elimination of violence against women. And every year since then, the 25th of November to the 10th of December, we have those 16 days of activism against women. Gender-based violence against women and domestic violence against women. So you'd find almost most countries around the world,
All gender bureaus.
they ensure that these 16 days, they are activism, they're campaigns, there's visibility when it comes to speaking out against the abuse against the female body. In a nutshell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody wants to add anything else? All right. So we have that background there, and people might not necessarily be familiar. I think people could have seen, some of our activities over the years during the 16 days of activism. So we want to talk today specifically about hush culture. I know that was a topic that you all were really interested in discussing. What is hush culture, and why do you want to focus on that now within the context of 16 days of activism?
So we thought about it was a conversation Teresa and I had. It was about us asking a question: are men disillusioned when it comes to their understanding their manhood and their masculinity, and them not being able to feel comfortable speaking out against violence against themselves and against women? So then she said, hush culture. I said, okay, well, that's something that we should speak about because it is happening. So there is certain normative behavior within our society that silence people through shame. What happens within the society is that they look at the vulnerabilities of people, especially women, that does not allow them to speak about the experience because they're not supposed to speak about the experience. And if they do, it should go about unchallenged. So what we thought is that we need to dismantle this hush culture, which you rightly said would lead into a rape culture. And for our small nation to understand that voices need to be heard, whether it's in safe spaces, and they also need that support system within their familial structure or whatever community structures that there are. So we're here to completely eradicate that hush culture.
Can we talk more about what hush culture is and what some of the vulnerabilities that you mentioned, I guess, place people at risk or make people easier targets for predators? What are some of those vulnerabilities, and as specific as we can get? Because I think, some people might be hearing and they might think that it could perhaps apply to them. It could perhaps relate to something that they're experiencing or something that they see other people experiencing, some dynamics that they have observed. But speak more about those specific vulnerabilities that support hush culture and that supports silence. That's part of hush
So
culture.
right off the bat, I guess you guys can chime in too. Right off the bat, let's think about a marital home,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where the expectation is the female is the property of the male. And if she does not give consent to have sex and she's raped within that home, right? That vulnerability is she is not able to speak up for herself because within that marital structure, she's considered property.
Within the law.
Within the law, right. And she is uncomfortable to speak about it because she has this legal frame over her head. And then she also have that structure, the family around her that doesn't want her to speak about it because of the shape it might bring to her family and to her extended family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. That's one. Go ahead.
I
Yeah.
feel like what we have to look at is how we were raised originally, how we grew up in our culture, what was the norm for us. And I think the norm for us growing up is that the man was always the head of the home. The man had all the say, and I guess the women were just there to follow along, be obedient to the man. So I guess as we grew into culture, it continues. I know it's a big conversation, and I know a lot, have to be done first for it to really be sensitized. But is it something that can really be eradicated, or it can be reduced?
Yes.
So I think, let me chime in.
Yeah, and
So the goal is eradication. The process to get there is reduction, little by little. The Angelique Dance Company assisted with a video, the Empty Chair campaign, and that hush culture is the video also. Well, let me describe what the video does first, just in case some persons have not seen it, but we have numbers. A lot of persons have actually seen this video. So the video shows empty seats in different areas, whether it's in a school, on a beach, at home, at work, right? And why is that chair empty? Because the person who's supposed to fill that chair, they're home or they're wherever, they're in another space, and they have been the victim of violence. And the hush culture comes in where sometimes you see an empty chair and you don't even think about, well, why that person didn't show up? Why aren't they here? And how can I help? Because sometimes when we actually know why the person isn't there, then you have to go beyond that. How can I help? How can I support? How can we reduce this thing that's happening, that's plaguing our society? And we're not talking about it enough. Oh, that's my business. Oh, that's the thing. That cannot be what we expect, right? We need to really look at action items that we have to do, things that are meaningful. Both gender departments, they actually produced a domestic violence protocol. Like, if this happens, what is next? And so I know Shania gonna go into that. Just let her in there. But there are steps, there are ways that we can help. Do we know how we can help? Well, we have been communicating how we can help. And so these are things that we are putting systems in place so that the silence is no more.
Are there any other vulnerabilities, and this is for Shania, that you would identify? So we've had, specific situations like in marital homes because the law doesn't recognize spousal rape as a thing. So women are seen as the property of their husbands. So there is no such thing, according to the law, as non-consensual as rape.
Right.
We also have the issue of children, right? So childhood, youth is another thing that can predispose you unnecessarily and increasingly expose you to risk and violence because of our attitudes towards children.
Right.
One, children should be seen and not
heard.
heard. So from small, we discourage children from speaking from that agency that everybody and that autonomy that everybody is born with, and that should be honed over time. But what other vulnerabilities exist? And then we can get into some of the actions that are being taken at some point.
I guess I could add the aspect of how we could relate to the theme as well for this year's 16 Days of Activism campaign, seeing that this year it's Unite to End Digital Violence against women and girls. So I guess that would be a vulnerability in the sense that when it comes to things like online harassment, cyber stalking, doxing, tech-enabled stalking, stuff like that, that in itself is a growing danger, because we're also seeing AI and things such as deep fakes that people create with your identity, and women and girls are disproportionately affected at a very high rate. And that's something I feel like we really need to draw our attention to, because even going back to what Tracy was saying about the empty chair campaign, we've grown up and we've seen, images, non-consensual image sharing of young women and doing different activities, inappropriate photos, whatever. And with the empty chair campaign, that could also be a representation of that, because that's the same associated shame attached to these things when they come out, So it doesn't necessarily just have to be physical violence, but digital violence, all forms of violence can have a very deep and negative impact on women and girls especially.
Okay, so this is... Sorry, go ahead, whoever.
I was just thinking, just imagine you're at school and you're being trolled, and so you don't go to school.
Yeah.
And that causes an empty chair, right, to exist. So it you're right. I didn't talk about the digital, but that came in so well.
How you move away? I don't know how much it happens now, because me in the age group. But I remember when I was young and I was in the age group, like seeing a lot of my peers experience digital forms of violation, and some of them don't live here anymore. Like, they moved away very shortly after. So like things where you have to uproot your life because somebody shared something that you didn't give them permission to share. But somebody, I think Ms. Hendrickson.
Well, just to add again, and that's something that we really have to look at the gender aspect for, because when you really think about if image is shared of a girl and an image is shared of a young boy, most people just be like, whatever. But it doesn't really carry like a stain to the guy. It's always the girl that has to feel the shame or carry the shame. Nobody really shames the guy ever for, he sent a picture of nothing.
Oh, okay, well, that's what you're supposed to do.
Because the female body, right, is always probed. Right? There's always something to see. You always want
to ridicule.
Exactly. You always want to police it. Right? I mean, it's always on display no matter where you go. So that's valid. Yeah.
And it sells. I think there's one thing. I think there's one thing that we are seeing, and I think that we don't really pay much attention to it, which I've seen men talk about it. For example, gender roles, telling girls what they're supposed to be, telling boys what they are supposed to be. Like, for example, you're supposed to be a truck driver. Telling the girl, you're supposed to be a nurse. Like, really? I'm seeing right now, I see men wear a pink shirt, and he would say, real men wear pink. I guess they're trying to move the stigma away from, I guess, the gender roles. But it's still happening today, even in our homes. Yeah. Because sometimes I have to, think, Chanel, you're a gender person, It's all about buying a truck. But sometimes let him play with another toy.
A different type of toy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think that we are blind to it. I guess it is engraved in us from culture, from birth.
Sure.
This is how your parents raised you. Because growing up, I always want a doll, maybe something gender neutral, like maybe a yo-yo, maybe a dog. But these are the things that your mother would tell you. These are the things that you would get. You were not even mostly told, but look at this stuff that you will get for Christmas.
Exactly.
It tells a lot.
Yeah. Even the wrapping.
Yeah.
Has
Even
one set of colors for one.
colors.
Yes. Yeah.
And I believe
And
too, in
patterns and
schools,
designs.
it's happening still. I believe in preschool, it's still happening because, you know, the girls run away with the dolls and the boys run away with trucks, you know, and the man dolls. But I think that, you know, we have a lot of work to do when it comes to gender sensitization. And I know that's Roma feel.
And on that note, I'm just thinking here, on that note, who dares cross that binary of what is male, female, blue or pink? Who dares cross that binary? And if you do, you'll be ostracized.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
And-
so you
and-
push deeper into silence.
And violence.
Yeah, and violence.
And
And
violence.
then you
I
want
was
to...
also going to say, like,
Yes.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say it's also good that you raised the point about gender roles because gender roles tie very specifically to how people navigate these cultures of silence, whether you're expected to be silent or expected to speak out, even though everybody's kind of silent when it comes to violence. I don't mean to rhyme, but that is the effect of what happened. I also randomly a reframe that I saw recently, because we always talk about, you know, being a voice for the voiceless. We hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And I saw a reframe recently, which I was reminded of, which is a voice for the silenced. Because when we talk about people being voiceless, you know, as part of hush culture, are they really voiceless, or have we told them to be quiet?
Silent. Yeah. It's really more
So,
silent.
and when I was reading up for
Yeah.
the show too, I also found some research that was around men's and boys' experiences of violence and the kinds of ways that they are socialized to be quiet about it, which
Correct.
is like the reasons that women get socialized to be silenced and that men get socialized to be silenced are different.
They are different.
But everybody is socialized
to
not
be
to
si-
speak
yeah.
up about violence in general. So, like for men, it's about victims are really women. Like, you can't admit to having experienced certain types of violence because that's
That's a
something
woman
for
thing.
women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you
To-
now become a woman because if you
Right,
experience
you are now
that,
feminized.
no, you are not
right,
feminized.
you're not a man anymore, and things like that. Men are taught. Boys are always talk about, like, and we're coming up to carnival, so it's gonna be another set of experiences of it, right?
Yeah.
Like adult women dancing with boy children, like nobody is consenting, but you're assuming that it will be okay because early exposure to sex and sexual activities for boys is supposed to be good for them. And then obviously what's there to say about it? If this thing is supposed to be good for me, how do I say I didn't like it
Yeah.
at all?
Like,
How
I
do
didn't
say it
appreciate you
affected
doing
me?
that with
Yeah,
me.
forever.
Exactly.
I think that is so interesting just talking about the construct of gender in general, because I like that Chanel brought up like the pink and blue topic, because I remember back when I was in college and I did a introduction to gender studies, and one of the main things that stuck with me is we grew up learning that blue is for boys and pink is for girls, but
It used to be
before
the other
it
way.
was the reverse.
It was
like,
the other way.
They used to see pink as a strong and a bold color that represents traits for boys, and blue was seen as delicate. So it wasn't until like after 1940s, 50s,
Somewhere around the
50s,
world was, yeah.
marketing changed it. So that's why gender is such a social construct, because it
is.
shifts with the times.
Yeah.
So yeah, the whole play with a truck thing and all of that, like everything is just literally people trying to make other people perform gender and fit into boxes that were created. Right, so that's just some, because people always think that, oh yeah, this gender topic, and people, especially in St. Kitts, people don't understand. Sometimes in the public I get approached and be like, oh, what's gender? Some man and woman fighting story, and I'd be like, I mean,
Get that a lot.
There's
Yes.
so many things
Yes.
that it can be.
all they think is something to do with being transgender
yeah.
or
It is so
LGBTQ
fluid.
community.
It's absolutely fluid.
Because they think
Yeah.
only transgender people have gender.
Yeah.
Genders,
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
everybody.
Correct.
Yeah.
But they don't understand the meaning of the word gender.
Yeah.
That's where the misconception is.
Yeah.
That's where we come in.
And that's where you come in.
That's where
Right?
we come in.
That's where you come in. So I just want to zero in on this. Like, why are we talking about hush culture part so that people can really understand why are we needing to focus on silence? What difference will it make if we don't focus on it or don't talk about it?
Because if there is silence, it's perpetuated.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't know how to fight if people don't speak up about it. You know, I mean, I'm sure you've dealt with many cases, Chanel, where there you have victims, they're seeking help, but they want it to be done in secret. Like, for
Men.
example,
Men.
like for example, they would speak in codes, and you're supposed to decode what they're saying, and they need to get out of that space where they are being affected, but they want you to just simply find an apartment, put them, and then leave them alone, and not deal with the effect,
The actual
right? Or not
incident.
deal with the root of why this is happening. And you know, I think this silence in itself is debilitating because it adds to that cycle of abuse, that cycle of trauma, and it makes it normal to happen, you know. I mean, we've had so many cases, again, where, you know, you're making reports, and those who are receiving the report, they're saying to you, just deal with it, you know, just deal with it quietly, and it will go away. But it never really goes away. So I think putting the floodlight on these issues should encourage people to, you know what, let's speak about it. We have to ensure that we also offer these safe spaces and supportive systems, which need work, by the way.
Yes.
A lot of work.
Which needs
Yeah.
funding and resources.
Yeah.
And I'm saying
And
this
budget
even
coming
in
up,
my
so this
even
is
in
a
my
good
role,
time to
like
say
I
it.
totally
This is a good time to say it. Perfect. Since the budget coming up.
Yes.
I hope they're listening to us.
Yes.
You can send it. Remember, you can always listen to Pleasure Pulse after.
Yes.
You don't have to
Yes.
catch
Yes.
it live. It's
You
always
can
on
send
YouTube
it.
after, so you can send it
Send it.
as a link. So I kind of wanted to talk too about rape culture and how hush culture connects to rape culture. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but just so people have an understanding of that culture of silence and its connection to that culture of sexual violence.
Well, excuse me. Well, Soros did say the word normal, which I think is a keyword because even right now for one of our 16-day activities, the purple silhouette installations, they've been placed in public areas and they just feature local, regional, international statistics about gender-based violence. And I think one of the CADs actually was talking about many survivors of DVR, GBV don't speak up because sometimes they see the abuse as normal. So sometimes it's just people not even knowing it's okay that this is to say it's not okay, right? So it's just actually getting to that realization and being educated and allowing people to understand the different types, because even reflecting back on some domestic violence protocol workshops that I did with the Customs and Excise Department, it was really interesting to see how verbal abuse and emotional abuse wasn't something that was deeply recognized. Or people be like, oh, if I don't, they saying in two different groups actually was, oh, if I don't hit you, I don't love you, or something like that. But it's just so interesting to see, like, people don't really understand what it really means and what those different types of abuse being even considered as domestic abuse, you know, or even people don't even understand what domestic abuse is and how it's defined by our laws currently and how it's evolved over the years. Because even right now, it would be include intimate partners who are former intimate partners or were involved at one point. It still would be some type of motive attached to it, or if you're sharing, like, you're co-parenting a child and you're no longer in a romantic relationship, it's not just, we live together with boyfriend and girlfriend, so it's domestic abuse. No, you don't even have to be living together for it to be considered domestic. So it's just excuse me, it's just educating the public on the laws and the rights, and understanding or debunking the idea that it's something to be ashamed of, because at the end of the day, it's not your fault that somebody treats you badly.
Yes. Something that I remember, there was a young lady who, for her talent in a pageant, she actually exposed a truth about being violated. And I remember being in the audience. Well, there are two different pageants. So one I was in the audience, the other one I was judging for. And the one that I was in the audience, I remember, like, everybody, there was just like a, oh my God, she's doing it for you. Like, oh, she's saying it for you. Like,
How
like,
did she? How did she do that? Why are you revealing that?
No, actually, it was positive. And I thought, I was like, oh, we're getting it. Okay, we're getting it. And then when I was judging, it was like, oh, I can't believe she's saying it. And I was like, how is it different now? Sorry. I keep touching that.
Just one more time.
Yeah, thank you. So, and I was like, how is it different now? And it was just so interesting, like, who we choose to support versus who we choose to ostracize when it comes to speaking out and silencing.
That's a
next
good
thing, like, it's
the
just
messenger.
Like, yes,
that's a great point, because a lot of times too, well, the messenger and who it is being spoken about.
Oh,
so some people it's okay to catch a case, but some people let's tread carefully, because this is an upstanding citizen. This person is a family person. This person is a teacher. This person leads a church.
Hey, come on.
This person is a director somewhere. You know, like, there are so many things, right? And levels. Who is the perfect victim? Because some people are, you know, you can accept them and believe them, because part of it, right, is believing somebody if they bring, you know,
this particular message. I also experienced that again, I've been doing gender advocacy for quite some time now. So sometimes persons approach me, and I don't think it's random anymore. I think it's just one of the things that happens. That is purpose driven. Sometimes persons approach me and they just start talking about this scenario is happening to them, or this scenario happened to them, and what they did or could do to get her out, and how, like, actually this kind of relaying information that really allows me to then function as a safe space, and also function as a connector to get them to, well, this is what you need to do. This is, if you're ready to take action, these are that's what you need to do. And I think that I've been hearing so many stories, especially in the last year, that it is burdensome. I'm not telling anybody to stop talking to me, it's fine. But I mean, it's a burden that we are carrying as a society. Like, you might be coming to me, but I am realizing that maybe 1 in 5 is coming to me. And because it's a high enough number that's coming to me, then that means that is reflected of the society, that if they're quiet and you're the one talking, then how many more? How many more? Right? Yeah. And so it's oh man.
I think a few weeks ago I said that. I was like, what is happening? Like, in 1 week, 5 cases? Like, what is happening out there?
Yes.
I always tell people with the statistics that I show them in the presentation, when they're always like, what? Insane kids and Nevis? And I'm like, yes, insane kids and Nevis, 1. And 2, I always say, even though you're so shocked by the numbers in front of you, just remember there's numbers that aren't here.
Right, this is just who reported.
This is just who reported, and you're appalled by the numbers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Correct. So I think there are a few things that we've raised that uphold, contribute to create this culture of silence. Can you talk about some other factors, experiences, values, and beliefs that do that? So there is one, not believing victims when they are survivors, when they share. It is the idea around the perfect victim and only certain people being able to talk about it. It is only a portion, of people actually coming to share, not having the true numbers. What else contributes to
No trust in the support services.
They'll say that as well.
Yeah.
But there's one thing that the public, I'm not saying everybody does it, but is this, she gonna go back to the man, or
so don't even listen to, don't even study her.
Don't study her.
yeah, and I like there's a lot of reasons why victims go back to their perpetrator.
And there's a whole YouTube video specifically, I think it's a TED Talk
a lot
about that. And why I
Yes.
didn't leave, why I kept, there's a whole, I encourage
There's a
everybody
whole lot.
listening to, it was a great video and like great, outlining of the reasons.
Yeah.
So
And if you listen to the victims, you would hear different reasons.
Yeah.
And for me, it may not be a reason for me, but in reality,
Yeah.
would you take her in?
Yes.
Would you financially support her?
Exactly.
Would you help her take those 5 children to the different schools that they go to?
Nobody wants to carry that burden.
Would you believe that you're not beautiful? That nobody else would want me? Put yourself in that shoe
Exactly.
of the victim and tell me if you would say the
What
same
would
thing.
you do?
And I keep telling, even co-workers, I will tell that. Even not co-workers per se in my ministry, but in general,
Yeah.
co-workers.
Yes.
I will stop saying that. Yes, she's going to go back. Let her go back. It's okay. Because that the protocol speaks to every time she comes or he comes, we have to assess.
Yes.
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 And that,
Yes.
to me, this is what the legal system needs to understand and train them to understand. She can come 100 times. Sometimes the one time that she
Yes.
decides,
That's the magic.
I'm done, that's the time you run her away.
Exactly.
That could be the time when you
that could
save
be
her
that time.
from her death
Yes.
or his death.
Yes.
Because men do experience
death, Of
domestic
course,
violence
of
as well
course.
in silence. Same hush culture, right? And what I'm looking at in our department is that yes, we do have a male that works with men, but I feel, and he always says it, like men like to talk to men, and most of our departments are filled with women. So getting more men in our department is a plus
Yes.
for
Yes.
men, for men and boys. Because I would believe the same thing. I guess boys would feel comfortable talking to girls, and we have all those populations that we have to deal with. So I know it's work that we have to do. It's not easy, but the public have to help as well. It's not just us pushing 100%. The homes have to be involved. The schools have to help. The
Civil
churches have to
society.
help. NGOs. It's all of us. If we need eradication,
Yes.
all hands have to be on deck.
All of society
All
approach.
hands have to be on deck. And most times people like to talk about, I'm sorry, the LGBTQ community, but I find they are very supportive. They are very, very supportive group. And they themselves experience domestic violence.
Yes.
Yes,
And other
intimate
forms of
partner
violence.
violence.
sometimes at higher rates than
Yes.
heterosexual.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of the worst cases where 2 partners and they're going at it. And okay, let me give you an example. I could remember we had a case, and I'm trying to phrase it.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have
Yeah.
to
Right.
get
Yeah.
it. But one of the partners was forcing the next one over a cliff down at Fort Thomas. And I'm like, wow. I've never really seen a man, ever done that to a woman, or a woman had done that to a man. And I'm like,
Well, that has been reported to you.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because remember, we did have somebody
Yeah, of
kill
course.
their partner in the street.
Mm-hmm.
So it's he wasn't over.
Yeah, but I'm like, they do experience even worse situations.
And also, so when we're talking about being inclusive with responses, also, and marginalized groups, also persons with disabilities.
Right.
Oh, that's
And
our
that's
next. That's a next level. But that's sorry.
Yeah. But it is. But
that's not. You know, that's not the.
It is, and it is.
Tonight,
it's right in our homes.
Yes.
Where you would have a child, abusing their parents for their social security. That's it's right in our homes.
Yeah. I've actually had people. Well, when I used to work at the youth department, people would think that, because it's Ministry of Youth, Aging and Disabilities, they come to seek assistance with family members who are elderly being abused by, the younger family members. And it was so interesting to me because it was no way we were able to assist the person because of what we focus and specialize on. But it made me really think about that much more. Like, this is a problem, right? And you were talking about something earlier about, I think, other aspects.
Other factors or experiences or values or beliefs. Lots of options.
I don't know why the word, like, pride came to my head. For victims and perpetrators. And seeing how pride is associated with the shame.
I was gonna say it's just another side of it.
But pride could also fuel a perpetrator's, I don't even know how to describe rage, whatever, them having a lack of taking accountability, toxic masculinity, all those different things. So it's interesting.
A toxic person.
Because I don't want to tag them in.
Only.
But so it's interesting how it could play a role on both sides, whether it's the victim or the perpetrator. And also we were talking about men reporting. In 2020, I would have seen about 58 reports that's been reported through the police commissioner's office for men specifically. By 2021, it was 145. And remember what 2020 was? COVID. Right? So remember, I was going back to talking about emotional and verbal abuse. And a lot of times people feel like, men don't experience domestic violence or gender-based violence.
Lies you tell.
They could take it. They're strong. They're gonna man up. They're
strong.
Deal with it, right?
And even going back to talking about people not understanding the different types of domestic abuse, being abused, like the emotional, verbal, especially if you're in a heterosexual relationship and your partner is a woman and she berating you or she telling you things that hurting your ego and that type of thing. Most men, they internalize it. They use other means to. I don't really like to use the word cope because like coping, like alcohol and stuff like that, because I feel like if you're coping, it's helping.
It's supposed to be helping
positively. But it's just things like that. So I feel like it's just a situation where men should not, and we should really emphasize, because we get our department gets a lot of hate for it sometimes, that I only focus on women, and that's not the case. So we're here to also encourage the men to approach us with, like Chanel said, we do have a male officer. We have a private room, we have an intake room where you can have the privacy to express what it is you're going through, what you're dealing with. We're not going to laugh at you because you experience something, because the fact of the matter is all men are not the same. All women are not the same. Their temperaments are different. And some people prefer to, some men just not like that. They're not violent like that. They respect women in a different type of way, especially if they have like good relationships with women in their family. So it's just they express themselves differently, and that is okay. It doesn't make you any less of a man because you feel something. We all human. We all have blood running through our veins. It just means that you are human.
Any other factors or values anybody wants to bring in before we move to the next question?
Well, that kind of led me to just looking at mental health, how we approach mental health, and how abuse disrupts your mental well-being. and look at, well, you're talking about, but I agree, coping really needs to be healthy outlets, right? And just encouraging that is also something that we encourage and we support. And we've also posted and we have shared this on our social media outlets, the listing of therapists where you could actually get mental health support and stuff. So there are things like we have collectively been doing our part, and I really think that the general public, we need a little more helping hands so that we can, all of society, really look at curbing this as a social issue, as a reality, really.
I like what you said, because when Chanel was talking earlier about having one man in the office and needing more men gender officers, is it likely to happen? Because are you really likely to get more workers like that? I'm not sure. But I thought about whether you could, same way that you have made attempts to get gender sensitization happening in government offices, but other groups in society, are you able to train, equip regular men citizens to be, support points for other men? So properly gender sensitized so that they are equipped to the same kind of capacity, training and skills that the male there has.
We actually did some of that. So we did a presentation. The tag group Turnaround Agenda. There was a conference, Celebration of Kings, and as a part of the gender-based violence advocacy, end to gender-based violence advocacy. We did a presentation talking to them, and that was a room filled with 300 males, men and boys in that space. So there are ways where, again, there isn't all a society approach. So it's not just government, it's not just civil society, it's not just a church, it's not just an NGO, but all of us partnering and working together to actually create the system of support and help.
We do our best to connect with various men groups in St. Kitts and Nevis, and even through the Department of Gender Affairs Nevis, we are trying to form a Men as Allies group where we are going to do this gender sensitization with this group. And we also have agenda focal points in different ministries between both bureaus. So that is something that is a priority agenda for us. I mean, it's absolutely required. It's a requirement at this point.
Okay. And we have like 12 more minutes. So, to ask. So, just so people understand, because one, even as Shania was talking about people's experiences of violence and this culture of violence and the cycle of violence, especially, I was thinking about how, you were talking about, like, I beat you because I love you. It was like, that's exactly what parents say to their children, and then they become adults who say it to their partners, and then it continues, and then it continues. I only do this because mommy or daddy, blah, 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 blah,
do that next time, and then your husband beat you up like you look, right?
And then it becomes a case where they also do it to their children, sometimes subconsciously, not even recognizing where it came from. And then on Facebook, and then on Facebook, they're gonna be like, my Alex as a child, I look how fine I did. They're not great. Like, I don't abuse my child, because abuse is, and what I do is
exactly. Jury is still out.
Abuse light, right? Abuse light, right? But I think it's like recognizing that any type of violence is or will potentially lead to long-lasting traumatic effects on people. Some people could get a lash. You talk to them, they move on, nothing else, and they really are socially adjusted, non-violent people. For
but
some
it's also
people,
the intentionality of the lash. Like I remember my dancers. This was like when they were like 8. They were telling their parents, So she came to me, Tracy, you have your kids telling me this, that you can't just beat me. We didn't have a discussion about it. We didn't talk about what I did wrong. How will I, if I would do it again? Like, we didn't have a discussion. So you just beating me. Like, me and I get blows for. So what is the point? Right? So she was like, Tracy, you did that. And I was just like, well, I mean, that's a good thing. Yeah, like, so you just beat them just so? Not like y'all didn't have a conversation? Like, so to do something, you just hit them and like, so... I mean,
I have a hot take that even with the conversation, let's forget the violence.
But I would just say, I would just like to put out there that there's a difference between punishment and positive
discipline
and negative reinforcement.
Exactly.
Or discipline. People talk
Of course.
about discipline as opposed to punishment or being punitive because what is the goal, right? The goal is change the behavior.
Right.
Yes.
Even though we do have to remember that even though they're children, we are disciplining them because they did something we don't like. That's all. Is we have a particular perspective. Anyways, that aside,
Yes.
and that cycle there, you know, which I suppose, you know, will answer this question, but just make it plain. How can speaking up reduce violence and affect individual healing?
It's when you start doing it. I think the experience is different for any individual and affects them differently. And we were talking about people not wanting to talk about it because of shame. And we were saying, it's because of who? Because I think you were talking about the girl talking, everybody was like, she's saying this, she's saying this. And I was just thinking, like, ethos and how it's like, what are your credentials? Do you have the credentials and the knowledge and the experience? Do I trust that this is coming from your mouth? So I was just thinking about that word because I'm like, do we only acknowledge it because of that, the ethos of the person? Do I trust your credibility? So I feel like it doesn't have to be anything to do with that, and we have to keep that in mind that if I experience it, if I was the president, versus if I was Beyonce, or even if I just work in at Island Bakery, I feel like it shouldn't matter.
Yeah,
shouldn't matter. So it's just
Anyone
keeping that
on
in
the
mind.
experiencing and on the perpetrating.
And exactly.
Yeah.
Anybody can be a victim and anybody can be
a
a
perpetrator. Okay, anything else about how speaking up can reduce violence and improve healing?
I think about exposure and unraveling, exposing the perpetrator and holding them accountable.
Like calling their name, like on
Of
Facebook.
course.
Call them out. Yes.
Calling out the name.
Name them.
And
Yes, call them out
And
and,
even charging
hold
them.
them
Of
accountable.
course.
Yeah.
Name
'Cause
them,
even-
charge them,
even
do something
with
about
rape,
it.
Rape is done in silence and in secrecy, right? And yes, it's a very sensitive thing to speak about. But I think people would have to reach at that point of that healing journey when they're okay enough to speak about it. That would help other people. And the perpetrator, that he or she should be held accountable publicly for that. Unraveling and exposure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess it's also encouraging other people, once they see you doing it, to also step forward. Because some people, and ironically, the same ethos thing come up again, because if you see somebody that you respect, that, she's so up there, he's so up there, and they're talking about this, well, I probably could talk about it too.
Yes.
So, in a way, kind of also help.
It
in
can
a way.
help. I was going to say sometimes talking begins the process of healing.
Yeah.
So in the process of expressing what you felt, what you liked, what you didn't like, how does this affect you? What goes on? How does this? What is the next steps? That healing process that begins. Talking is a part of that.
Yeah.
And
it
communicating.
helps, it helps the generation as well.
Yes.
It helps
does.
those who are coming, and it helps those who are ahead of us.
And that is the only thing that should be normalized.
Yes.
So, normal
Speaking
is
of-
the key word.
Yeah, and as y'all were talking to, I also was thinking about, especially, you know, what you said about that unraveling, because there are some people who are serial perpetrators of violence.
Yes.
So they have perpetrated violence against generations
Yes,
of people,
in
sometimes
secrecy.
generations
Yes, right?
of
Yes,
families.
in
Sometimes
secrecy.
the grandmother
Oh
received
my
it, the
God.
mother,
Yeah.
the granddaughter,
Like,
you know,
Till
grandchild.
it's almost like a rite of passage.
Yeah,
Oh, that's going to happen to me
so
too at some point.
that
right?
happens a lot in families, and it also happens in other spaces,
and in society,
like in general,
and in
right?
sectors as well.
Yeah, where it's like you learn, because I have an experience where yes, somebody violated me in ways that are not recognized yet in laws. And I was talking to somebody and they said they had the same thing happen to them by the same person.
By the same person.
So it also reveals, because perpetrators rely on silence.
Yes.
That is how
Exactly.
they
That
continue
is how-
to perpetrate. So
And this is high. This is high on breaking.
Yeah.
on breaking the person. You're not being the first. Okay, that's
Yeah.
that's one at a time.
okay, yeah.
We'll be back.
I feel like we also can't live without acknowledging
Leave. I got
The
one more question.
perpetrators also needing some light shine on them to assist them as well.
And support, yeah.
So it's not. I wouldn't say
Reformation.
condemning all of it,
Yes.
but sometimes it's the victim turning into the perpetrator and
Yes, that happens.
perpetuating that
happens.
cycle
Yeah.
as well.
Yes, yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's very unfortunate because
Yeah.
then that person is being looked at. Oh, you're so awful, but nobody understand what that person had to
Went
deal with
through.
before
The
they get
trauma
to
Yeah.
that
this
led
point.
to
Yeah, especially when you watch a lot of true crime
And
stories and you learn all the things, not all of them, but quite a few of them,
Yeah.
like
Law and Order
the
for me.
backgrounds.
the SVU.
Yeah. Okay, so final question, and I think, what you said about providing support and help for perpetrators too, because the goal is, and I think everybody, first of all, we started out talking about socialization, right? This is how people are raised.
Yeah.
And if this is how people are raised, if gender is a performance, then all of these things can be unlearned.
Yes.
We can be raised
When
differently.
we socialize.
Right, we can be
function
socialized
differently.
differently.
We can be a
There is-
healed society.
there is an alternative, right? So how can we actually move from hush culture to open culture, or maybe consent culture?
I mean, talking about it because it's not talked about enough. Even in schools, the children don't learn much about themselves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's something I feel like.
Or how they learn about
Yeah.
what's supposed to happen to them. Sometimes it's the craziest path. Like when you listen, I'm like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? That's not.
And they
that's
learn
not how that
everything
happens.
on the internet.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they learn
And
on
from
their
peers
own.
that
and
learn
from
it
their
from the
peers,
yeah.
like
and it be the
weirdest
most
sources.
wrong incorrect
Yeah.
information. And because all their friends say, see it on TikTok, and then it's
my
like
God.
all of them say, viral. So
It must
If
be
viral,
true.
so it must be
it
true.
must be true.
And that's the deep fake AI.
Yeah,
that whole level of crazy that's about to hit. Well, it is hitting now, where you have experts being cloned essentially to look like they're giving out completely wrong advice. And just imagine, I see it on TikTok, and is this person? See, this is the proof, and I'm like, that's not even that person.
And
they would never say that.
Interesting enough, I think it was. I don't know if it was in China, but I saw something about people who are influencers. If you don't have credentials on certain topics, it's illegal now to speak on
Right,
things you're not
yes.
actually educated on. So I don't know. It's a
China, yeah.
extreme route, but I feel like it's pretty effective.
Okay. Anybody? Well, let me not end it anybody else. We're going along the line. How we can move from hush culture.
Yeah,
to
I'm
open culture.
thinking, I remember you said children are to be seen and not heard. I think allow them to express themselves. I think through expression, you understand the boundaries and the things that you're willing to take and you're willing to deal with. So when a situation comes where, you're being abused, or someone is overstepping that line, or you're in that digital space and harmful words are coming to you, know when to stop. You don't have to respond to, you know when to stop, when to remove yourself, or when to speak to someone and say, hey, this is what is happening to me. So I think to allow kids, let's start with socializing, allow kids to express themselves and establish those healthy boundaries that would protect them from abuse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Teach kids to respect each other. It doesn't matter. I know sometimes in school, another child may tell another child, oh, that's not what you're supposed to do, because my mommy say, this is how it should be done. Teach children to respect each other's values, their opinions. Just teach children respect. Teach your child boundaries.
That's it.
And that's it.
Okay.
Clocking out.
And that's all.
Okay.
Drops
so,
the mic.
Yeah, I was like,
And it starts
I guess
from
we
there.
need a conclusion. Go ahead. That's from there.
That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts from
Okay,
there.
wrap it up. Final
Yeah,
words.
wrap it
Well,
up.
you're going. Final words. Final reflections.
Yeah, because if I've learned that at a preschool age, growing up, I don't think that violence would have been maybe the first thing that I used to solve a problem, right? I may have also detected early too, So I believe it starts from small sensitization, and tell me. Tell me.
Okay, so starting with boundaries,
Boundaries,
starting with
respect.
respect for space, for values, for
Opinions. Yes.
Some. I mean, yes.
And where things are appropriate.
Yeah.
Because there's a time and space. That's not telling you to hush. There's a time and space, time and place, but also space where things can happen. And I could just hear one of my friends, she says to my godchild, use your words, use your words. I think she sounds so funny when she says it. But because sometimes he's crying and I'm like, hang on, use your words, you can just cry. But then he says, I want this. And then he expressed himself and he's allowed to do that. And that is something that we really should continue. Having children being able and free and open to allow it so that they communicate, right? And you establish boundaries so that it's healthy. It's not in a toxic, or it's just me doing but it's done in a way that's appropriate.
Yeah, I think that's a soft way to introduce sensitization to children.
Yes.
Very soft. I like that. And then we build on it.
Right. Yeah. Because the initial conversation. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if Roma had do a session for us. First of all, we have a gender sensitization curriculum, and we wanted Roma to include primary school children. So she did it. She included it, and then we did a training with the counselors. And I don't think that the training with the counselors was accepted, They had a lot of pushback about why should I teach a child to make their own decisions? Children are children. Why do I have to teach a child to respect another child who believes that he's a girl when he's really a boy? So we had a lot of pushback in terms of that. But now that Tracy is saying, sensitization, soft. Let's introduce it softly, Great idea. Great idea.
As
So
always.
I guess we go back to the drawing board again, Roma. Go back to the drawing board.
To start with, yes. Yeah.
We go in soft.
Yeah, yeah. Because there are lots of things, we're talking about violence, but there are lots of other things before we get to violence that relate to the topic, like boundaries,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So there are ways that we can have these conversations and start to break these cultures of silence, one, by listening to our children, by listening to our partners, by asking people around us, what do you think, about what
And
I've
actually
said.
appreciate
Don't
it.
get
Don't get
Yes,
offended.
yes,
Like, do you like this? What
Exactly.
you thought about blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
So we can begin to really challenge this culture of silence by speaking up ourselves and supporting people when they speak up, and not forcing people to speak up, supporting them when they do, encouraging people who have stories to tell to tell those stories. Thank you so much for joining me
you.
for tonight's conversation. It is, as a reminder, the 16 days of activism. So the departments have quite a few other activities coming up. Sorry, we didn't get into sharing them, but you can message me and I'll tell them next week. So thank you again, everybody, for listening. As usual, a reminder that no topics, no conversations are too big or too small for Pleasure Pulse. And what we're talking about here is pleasure, right? Like things that feel good. That could be sex, that could be speaking up, it could be agency, it could be autonomy, it could be feeling like your parent recognizes and values your opinion on what cereal to buy, right? So it's that small and you know, minute. So as usual, I'm going to wish you a pleasurable evening. Thank you again to my guests, and say good night here. Until next time, bye.
That was good.